regardless of the attachment that happened, you were unshakable that week because you just took moment to moment and you saw it from this trained mind, which the trained mind just sees everything in its pristine state, that this is what's happening right now. The untrained mind sees it, attaches an emotion, and then blows it up.
And I'm working more and more on it. It's becoming more and more solid. And I feel like it can transcend anything. Any brick wall that appears, I'll be able to get over it, around it, or through it. And I guess that's the confidence I've been working with.
That was Beej and me, and this is the Yogi Triathlete Podcast, lucky number 13. I'm coming to you today from the Dacha Project in Freeville, New York, a sustainable community living homestead where 5 people are currently growing their own food, harnessing the power of the sun to light their home and heat their water while playing Airbnb host to their guests, us, who get to stay in the adorable straw bale cottage on property. We've been essentially sleeping and hanging out in the cottage and using the common house for our kitchen, Wi-Fi, and showering needs. This is right up our alley, and we're learning so much, and I think we're gonna come out of this saying that we are down with sharing space with like-minded folks. Last night, the Dacha Project hosted an in-house classical guitar concert. We got to mingle with some of the locals and feel the strength of connection and community. It was a beautiful night, and in watching the musicians open up to share their gifts, I saw bravery, vulnerability, and joy. And I realized that it doesn't matter what we follow in this life. What matters is if we don't follow it because we're not willing to be brave, vulnerable, or to feel joy. And I lived that for a long time, and now I'm living the opposite. And I have to say that it requires all of those things, but it's more beautiful than you could ever have imagined. And that doesn't mean that we won't be without challenge. It's just a question of if we're awake and ready for it. And in today's show, you're definitely going to hear some major vulnerability and bravery and challenge and joy as we don't just dive in, we open. We go over, around, and through the action of detachment regarding BJ's quote unquote unexpected turn of events at Ironman Lake Placid. All I have to say is listen up. I have never heard my husband speak from such an open and vulnerable space, a space that is truly the premise of strength. This conversation is one that you are not going to want to miss. But first, I want to congratulate YT Tribe member Vinny, the winner of our July giveaway with Zeal Optics. This guy will now be exploring more and taking his super coolness to a new level with his new Kona sunglasses. When he received word of his win, he replied to us, "This is so great. I get to listen to a great podcast, literally listening right now to Brittany talk about her pink cap racing away, and win a pair of kick-ass shades." So it's a win-win. You guys keep listening in. And today I get to announce our awesome August giveaway. Are you ready for this? The winner of this month's giveaway better be ready to have the comfort of their life changed forever, because we are giving away a free pair of UFOS sandals. That's right. Some lucky YT is going to be feeling the ooh. Here's the deal. All you have to do is leave us a review on iTunes and you'll be entered to win. These shoes are changing the way feet live, feel, and breathe. Biomechanically engineered to alleviate the foot stress and soreness caused by your daily grind or training routine. So get to iTunes and leave that review. Now on to the show. All right, park is down, ready to podcast. So why don't you fill everyone in on what happened to you?
What happened?
What the hell happened?
I got hit hard. So for those out there, here's a little recap of what happened. We're up in Lake Placid, training for Ironman Lake Placid. And we've been there for about 5 weeks. And leading into the race, the Sunday night, Monday, prior to Ironman, we were camping at North Pole Resorts, and I came down with something in my stomach. I don't know what it is. Still don't know what it is, but it wreaked havoc on my system. And I could not eat food and have it stay inside. I was constantly having to go to the bathroom. So I'll keep the details out, but it was
pretty much like involuntary.
Yeah, it was coming out, yes, pretty hard, pretty often.
About as fast as you wanted to run that marathon at
pretty much.
IMLP.
Yes.
It was coming out at about a 7:15 pace.
So in this time of craziness, we went through Monday night in the campsite, and then Tuesday morning I woke up and we had this idea to check into the hotel because things were a little bit extreme. So we checked into the hotel for the remainder of the days leading into Ironman. And although that helped having a bathroom nearby, the symptoms kept getting worse. So I had to check into the local urgent care just to get tested, and that didn't really solve anything.
No, but so they're throwing words at you like E. coli and Giardia, which is, that's a parasitic infection. So, and then it didn't help that I pulled up the Google image of Giardia and was pointing out the fact that it looked like they had faces. And,
forever imprinted on my mind now.
Yeah. So, I mean, how were you feeling in that moment when they were talking about these conditions that really would have warranted like antibiotic use? Or, I mean, we probably would have researched it, but what we were hearing was that, you can't just let them ride, that they're going to continue to live. And then, of course, we're starting to hear stories about people who had parasites for years, because once something that like E. coli and Giardia start getting out there and, through the rumor mill, everybody likes to share their story about how this person had parasites for 6 years. So you're feeling awful. And then you actually rode your bike to urgent care because we didn't want to lose our parking spot at the Northwoods Hotel.
To get IV. That was
but also to test out kind of how you were feeling. Yeah. Because you were 3 days out from the race and we were keeping the dream alive. And Thursday was the first day literally that you could stand up and start to eat anything. Is that correct?
That's
Thursday?
Correct. Yeah, Thursday was. And I was eating white rice.
Which we never eat.
White rice.
Right. So how are you feeling when they started throwing those kind of terms at you? Because those are serious illnesses that really would have taken you out of the race, no question.
Yeah, I didn't know what to think actually, because there was just a lot of things going on, and I didn't know. I started to think about the sources. Was it the water I was drinking at the campsite? Was it swimming in Mirror Lake? Are all these athletes going to get it because they're swimming in Mirror Lake? What is in my stomach right now, and how am I going to get rid of it? And what is it? What is it was probably the biggest thing, because the doctors didn't know, and they could not give me an antibiotic until they knew exactly what it was. There was one antibiotic for Giardia, I guess, and one antibiotic for E. coli. There's specific ones to treat these, and I didn't even know if I wanted antibiotics, because at that point, it wasn't going to get me ready in time for Placid. This is Thursday, Friday, so we're talking 2-3 days before the race.
Right, and the thing about antibiotics, although I do think they're necessary in some cases, I think they're ridiculously overprescribed and taken without the caution that really should be taken, because they wipe out your microbiome. They just wipe it out. They wipe out the bad bacteria. They wipe out the good bacteria. So it's a huge rebuilding process anytime you take an antibiotic. So it was just layering on like these heavy diagnoses plus really intense medication while we're still trying to keep the dream alive, and just remaining positive and keeping the vision while accepting what's happening. So why don't you go back and tell them kind of why this not only was a punch in the face, but it was really like a couple kidney punches too. Like what was like the real thing that really layered it on, so that it was even more quote unquote unbelievable that it was happening.
So leading into the selling of our house and this whole Ride the High Vibe tour, we started thinking about or I did at least, wanting to come up to Placid and spend a few weeks to train on the course, absorb the community, feel the vibe, and really dive into it. And then when I sort of set that intention, because I think I might have mentioned it to you and you were maybe saying, if that's what you want, set the intention for that to happen. And it happened. We learned about selling our house, and we're going to go right straight to Placid and spend all the weeks leading up to Placid training. I could train on the course. I was sleeping basically right on the bike course. The conditions were extremely perfect. I didn't have a job to go to. I could train and continue to build this yogi triathlete business, coaching and working with new athletes. Everything was in line, and we were up here. Everything was going smoothly. I was learning flexibility of changing up my training routine, sitting at the campsite, doing spins on my trainer, or swimming in the lake for 6 straight weeks, not in a swimming pool. Like, these are all new to me. And
so it's funny to look back, right, at hindsight, because when you look back at the path, it always makes so much sense. So you say that you were learning flexibility, but what you were really practicing, because we were challenged every day, just jumping into this new life. Like, we really, like everything we do, we just jumped right in. You were learning to detach from this routine that you had, and, detaching from swimming in a pool and using your paddles and your swim buoy and doing like your Tower 26, is it Tower 26? Tower 26 workouts. You were detaching from doing your workouts first thing in the morning, because sometimes you weren't getting on the bike till 6 or 7 o'clock at night, depending on weather, depending on the needs of Clark, depending on the needs of your athletes. So it was like the universe was prepping you for detachment. But we were seeing these challenges every day, and we talked about these challenges. And it's funny how the mind works. Like, when you're in a challenge, it's like you just think like, okay, that's kind of the cap of the challenge. But when you and I actually really know, because we're on the spiritual path, what we really know is that everything's just preparing you for something bigger. It's just, when is that something bigger coming? And then even when you get to the something bigger, you know that it's preparing you for something bigger.
And you don't know what that something bigger is.
Yes.
You just don't know. And I thought I knew. I guess I was going into the future a little bit and planning things out and saying, I'm going to have a great race.
You were super fit, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that visualization and setting the intention. That's so important. But something happens, and it happens without us even knowing. And it happened to you, and it happened to me as well, just seeing this intention. And that was, we were becoming attached to you racing Ironman Lake Placid. I mean, you were super fit, really healthy, stress-free, rolling with the punches. And we both just saw this race so clearly. This was going to be the stars aligned for you race. So in that vision, the thing that we did was we attached to what we thought was going to happen. Would you say that's correct?
Absolutely. That's correct. But I didn't know it in the moment.
No, rarely do we.
Right. But I'm obviously working on myself and working through meditation and trying to be aware and detachment. And even though I'm working on all those things, I'm still blind to what was happening.
Right.
Externally,
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right. So 6 weeks of, at this point, it's about 5 weeks of just pristine training on the course, in the lake, on the bike course.
On River Road. I spent so much time on River Road, up and down, and really loving River Road. And I heard a lot of athletes on race day or after race day, and they don't like that stretch. And I really somehow brought myself to really love that stretch of the course.
And you keep saying to me, all I wanted to do was what?
Run River Road.
During the race. Yeah. So, okay, so bring us up to speed. So you got smacked with, you said a little bit, you got smacked with something super violent in your body. It was crazy. And And you were kind of like, how and what and why. And do you remember what I said to you about that? I said, you can try and figure out the how and the why all you want. But what's happening is that you're working out some karmic pattern. Like you're working out karma. This is what happens. Everything is energy. When we don't deal with it, or something that we brought into this world, we don't deal with it, it manifests eventually into the physical. So yours manifested really intense, really fast to release it. So the mind, the human mind, it wants to know. It wants to know the how, the why, the when. But if everything is energy, all that is a leakage of vital energy. It's a leakage. It's that's all it is. It's a waste. So it's like it's balancing what's happening in your body and then seeing the craziness of the mind. And so how did you deal with all of that?
So I just want to backtrack on, the efforts I made during that week, because I was thinking about why, but I was also absorbing myself into eating the white rice, drinking the peppermint tea, taking ginger, the peppermint drops into my drinking water, and just continually hydrating.
And what was before you even started that, you were doing something else you had read online.
What was it? Bananas, rice, applesauce, and electrolytes.
You were drinking Gatorade. You were getting in what you could, but the fact of the matter is it was just sliding right through you.
Yeah, there was it was not holding in. And I think I kept telling you, I slept in the bathroom last night. Like I was on the floor in the bathroom, curled up. And I can really understand people now that have, problems like this, and they talk about it. I did not know what to do. I mean, I would go lay on the couch because I didn't want to disturb you sleeping. And we were lucky to have two rooms in the hotel. I was back and forth to the bathroom, and there would be times where I just didn't want to leave the bathroom, and I laid on the floor, curled up. It was really hard. And then I think it was that Wednesday night, I was like, I've had enough. I got to go check myself in. So I checked myself in on Thursday, and then I went back on Friday and got some IV. So Friday was the first day I actually went outside. I went to the Four Keys talk by Endurance Nation, and then I met our friends down at the opening ceremonies. Was that Friday? I think it was Friday.
That was after you got the IV. So you were starting to feel better at that point.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, I want to break it down a little bit. So during this week, you're dealing with the physical, you're dealing with it. How are you feeling? And this is what people want to know. How are you detaching? How are you not going into the future saying, oh my God, am I going to race or not race? How are you doing this?
I was super in the moment. So I was trying to take each moment of my day, which was in the hotel room, and just constantly work on that moment right there. I wasn't trying to go too far ahead. I didn't even register until Friday because I just wanted to take it every morning. How do I feel when I wake up? Afternoon, how am I feeling? At night, how am I feeling right now? I didn't want to go to Sunday morning and say, if I feel like this, well, what's going to happen?
Did your mind go there though?
Very few times. Very few times.
My observation of you, and I did express it to some people, and I don't know if, unless you were there, if you could really encapsulate what a master you were. I just watched you, and you truly were in the moment. I know you very well. I've known you for 20 years. And this was the most amazing example of living a mindful life, of being a warrior, of being a master. Like you were practicing mastery, and you were sharing with me that you were pulling a lot of strength from experience that you've had.
Yeah, from 2 years ago. And I, going back, I like to be in the moment, but 2 years ago was a very pivotal moment in my life.
When you missed the same race.
I missed the same race, and due to a lower back injury. So it was a physical thing that time. I guess this one was physical as well, but I came out of that experience not wanting to be that person again, because
to go that low.
I was super low, and I didn't feel the vibe. You were out racing that day, and I couldn't enjoy it as much as I did enjoy this race. I was in pure joy on race day, and all the way until the midnight finishers.
This just,
time around.
Yeah.
But 2 years ago, I was really low and I didn't know how to get out. I didn't have a steady meditation practice. I know that. And I didn't really have confidence in myself to pull out of this because I was so attached to the race, to triathlon, to finishing, to getting to Kona, to being as fit as I can be, because how am I ever going to be here again? All those things.
So you're saying that you were attached to this race as well, but it seems that it wasn't as severe as last time. Did you not feel as much emotion? What was different between that, missing that race, and missing this race?
I've been working a lot on myself in meditation. After that experience, I've been working steadily, meditating every day, and I work with our meditation teacher bi-weekly. And part of the root of my attachment sometimes is insecurity and lack of confidence. And so when I'm in meditation and I sit quietly with myself, I'm able to really get deep down sometimes and figure out what are those feelings I'm having. Like, why do I feel the need to attach to triathlon and the outcome of a race? Is it for other people? Is it for the investment of money? Is it tied to money that we put into these races? Is it my fitness? That's when I hear all the time, am I going to be fit again like this? Of course you are. And I have absolutely 100% belief that I can exist without triathlon. With that knowledge and confidence, I know the journey is going to be so much more fruitful at the end. I know that workout I did today is going to help me for whatever next race I do. It doesn't matter if it's today, if it's next week, if it's this year. I may not race this year. Hopefully I do. But all these experiences are going to build up towards something in the future. And if you can detach from that, and I talked a little bit about it in my video too, if you can detach from the time element of when this is going to happen, really all you're doing is experiencing life and understanding yourself in the moment. And so if you're understanding this journey and you're on it and you're happy and you're getting fit and you're doing the things you love, the end is going to come. It's going to come. And I guess it's a little bit of belief that what you're doing is what you should be doing. So I guess it even goes deeper into self-reflection. Are you doing what you truly love to do? Stop doing the things that people expect you to do. And I think once I got away from those thought processes, so my family came up and visited 2 years ago, and I was like, they're here and I'm not racing. I invested $800 into this race. I was really fit going into this race, and I'm not sure I'm going to have enough time to build up into the training again to be fit as I am right now. Those ideas were in the past. Now I know it's just one more notch. I just did a whole 6-month training session for Ironman Lake Placid. I feel fit, I feel strong, and I'll get it on the next one. And I don't want this one event, Ironman Lake Placid, or any event, to define me, whether I'm successful or not successful at it. I will far exceed the race. The race is, as you saw, we talked about this, Ironman came in, they set up, they had the race, and they were gone. We saw the whole thing. It came and went. But you know what? I'm still here, and I'm still fit, and I'm confident that come next race, whatever that may be, I'm going to be ready again. And you know what? Something else may happen. That's fine. I'm just going to learn from it and grow from it, because I don't want these experiences to stop me. I don't encourage them, but I am open to them and receptive to them, because I'm going to come out the other side more experienced. I can speak to all of this right now. I can speak to what kind of diet to use when you're feeling sick. I can talk to what are the symptoms when you start to have something in your belly. I can speak to how to train for 5 weeks without a pool. Like, all these life experiences I can now speak to firsthand, and it wouldn't have happened. And I was out there and able to support our athlete, Heather Ryan, completing her first Ironman.
So you had said something before we started podcasting about how you approached the day, the actual race day, how you approached it. You threw yourself
into support of Heather. What helped me get out of my experience of 2 years ago was to dive into community and giving back. And that's when I started to coach people. I started to coach your cousin and anybody who was open to it. I went to go volunteer at races. And that actually has carried through to this day. And it was a good reminder on race day, I'm here for someone. I was not supposed to race. I was supposed to be out there looking for Heather, checking her times. And Sean and Dirk and all our friends out there, the connections we made on social media, the people we met in town.
Yeah, Lindsay and Brittany and Elizabeth.
And Brian.
Yeah, and Jeff and all those people that were there, for them to see you on the sidelines. Number one, every single one of them, when they saw you on the sidelines, was like, oh man. But then I saw something else happen that they were like, they had a boost of energy. Like, I'm going to do this for you. Like, I saw that with every single person out there, because that's how much people love you. And you did throw yourself into service that day to root on other people. And it was just such I am not bullshitting at all. I have never seen such amazing practice that you exemplified that week. And it's practice, and that you have come out stronger. And so you had this really cool experience where you said to me, I'm really interested in this like detachment. I want to be able to, so again, like in this air of service, because you wanted to help explain it to people, because everybody was asking you through email, through text, through phone, through social media, how are you doing this? How are you attaching that? How are you detaching? And so you said to me, I'm just going to sit in meditation, and I just want to understand this. How do I attach? How do I explain the how of what I just did? And that you came out of it with this idea of removing the time.
Yeah, and I would have not come to that point if I didn't do my meditation. And it wasn't just one meditation. I think it was 2 or 3 straight days where I was really going in and figuring out, how can I explain this to someone? What is it that allowed me to do this? Because, people can say, oh yeah, great job. Like, that's good. You were able to detach. But how? How did you detach from something you were so committed to, that you put so much hard work into, that you paid money for, that you put out on social media, and you invested all of this energy into? Blood, sweat, and tears. How did you let it just pass? And time came to me. So if we are invested in our goals, and my goal is to eventually get to Kona, and it's a challenging goal, but it's something I want to aspire to, and I'm working towards it every day. But if you remove the timeline, which I did have at one point, I think I said I want to get there when I'm 40. I've removed the timeline. I just want to enjoy triathlon and training. And what is the root of what brings me joy? Training and racing and coaching others. That is what I like to do. That's what I love to do. When I get to Kona, I don't know when that's going to happen. If you remove the time element, you remove that pressure, and you truly absorb yourself in what you love. And on that day, I truly wanted to be out there enjoying the Ironman experience. I didn't want to sit in a hotel room and pout or be upset or think, what if this didn't happen? And let me say, it was perfect conditions for me. It was sunny out. It was warm. There was no wind. And it would have been ideal conditions for me, for what I'm suited for.
We were having a little laugh about that on race day, because I said to you, this is everything you wished for. You just forgot to ask if you could be a part of it.
Can I participate, please?
It was everything you wished for. It was tough, hot conditions, which a lot of people don't like and you love. It was everything you asked for, but you just didn't get to be a part of it. You got that part of it, but you didn't get to be a part of it.
But I was a part of it as a spectator. And I would not want to be in a hotel room. I wanted to be out there. I was out there almost the whole day, walking around and trying to meet people and getting on the hill and smiling. And I really enjoyed it. And I wanted to see all my friends and people out there. And I wanted to see Heather and I wanted to see Leah succeed. And it was no problem. It was 100% genuine that I wanted to be out there and to see these athletes pushing themselves. And then the thing I always talk about is the midnight finishers. I wanted to be there and not miss one beat of Mike Riley calling in those final finishers. And I saw Heather's finish, and then I quickly went over and met you at our usual spot right by the finish line. And I couldn't stop smiling or dancing and just being a part of it. Like, that supersedes the race experience. And whether that's good karma and it'll come back to me, that's great. That's icing. But I just want to be a part of these experiences. And I would even consider going to all US Ironman races just to go to the finish line and spectate and cheer these people on, because the accomplishment is so amazing. And if you have not been to the finish line of an Ironman, it's an absolute must do. Doesn't matter where it is, get to one. Lake Placid's is remarkable and so energetic, and you can just feel the vibe. But if you can get there at that time, because you can feel the pain and the effort on people's faces as they're going down the finisher chute. And Mike Riley is unshakable. He is so happy, and his energy, you just pull off of it. And I can't think of a better place I'd want to be at midnight than during an Ironman.
And you just said one of my favorite words when I teach spirituality, meditation, yoga, is being unshakable. And that's really what this path leads you, is to be unshakable no matter what happens. And regardless of the attachment that happened, you were unshakable that week because you just took moment to moment and you saw it from this trained mind, which the trained mind just sees everything in its pristine state, that this is what's happening right now. The untrained mind sees it, attaches an emotion, and then blows it up. And then we get into am I ever going to be fit again? We get into what you experienced 2 years ago, which is really the beautiful thing about that injury, is that it really sparked your meditation practice, and you have been unshakable in your meditation practice since then. But what I want people to understand is that when we get like that and we start going down that dark hole in the me, why me, poor me, only me, I'm all alone, we are so self-absorbed. And all you're doing is just checking off the win box for the ego. It's pulling you into the darkness, and you are lending your hand to be pulled down there. It's so self-absorbed. And I'm not saying that it's easy, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to go there, because I've been there and I have so much compassion for anyone who's going down that dark alley. So I say this with endless abundance of love and understanding. But to look at it as self-absorption, right, which is really what the ego is. It wants to be seen as this, as my teacher Philip says, this separate autonomous being, that when we are injured, when we are taken out, that we feel so alone. But we're not alone, because when you see that transition area, when everybody's on the bike, you see all the other bikes of the people who didn't show up that day. So that's one way to see that you were not alone that day. You were not alone because everyone around you was supporting you, and they were in awe of what you were doing. And we are never alone. And this is what you always have to remind yourself. This is why it's the warrior path. It is easier to be self-absorbed. It's easier. We are conditioned to live in a state of lack, that we are not enough. We're conditioned from a very young age. So this is our conditioning. But every time you choose a way, moment to moment, and that's how you have to take it, especially in the most intense times, when every time you choose a way, you start to widen that neuro pathway in your brain. I mean, science now knows that the brain has a quality to it known as neuroplasticity. We can change our ways. So if you are somebody that struggles with depression, or somebody who struggles with attachment, if this is speaking to you, or somebody who struggles with feeling alone, you can change that through this type of practice of just being mindful. And one thing that my teacher always says to me is that, and you read it in scripture as well, is that you cannot go down this path alone. You need a teacher. We need teachers. And this is how the lineage of teachings gets passed along. Like, we are here to either to meet our teacher or to be the teacher. And in many cases, if not all, we are both. So you need that support, and just having that teacher is going to make you not feel alone. But if you start to look at that as self-absorption, it's almost like, like when I started looking at it that way, I was like, that's awful. I don't want to be so self-absorbed. When you look at all those bikes there for people who weren't out racing, or when you went into urgent care and the doctor said, if it helps any, we just had another athlete come in. When you said that to me, my heart just bleeded for that person, because gosh, somebody else is suffering the same as you, with this same physical thing. However they were suffering mentally, I don't know. I wish we could have found them and brought them into our little suite and helped them heal. But what I want to point out is, and this goes along with you just choosing away from that self-absorption this time, you weren't feeling good on race day at all, at any point in the day. And I want to make that really known. I mean, when we were on the hill, you were like, where's the nearest bathroom? And so just describe how you made the call that morning, because we kept the dream alive. I mean, we were putting Vaseline in special needs bags at 9:00 at night the night before.
Yeah, I was ready to go. I racked my bike Saturday. I didn't do my typical swim, bike, run, obviously. I just brought my...
You did nothing for 5 days. Tell them about how, when you weighed in.
So I registered, or I checked in on Friday, early afternoon, and I went to go get, packet and all of that, and they weighed me in, and I still had my t-shirt and shorts on and UFOS sandals. I weigh myself when we were, living in Newport. I weighed myself pretty consistently. So I know, after I eat, after I work out, I know pretty much where my weight is. When I weighed in at Ironman Lake Placid, I was 6 to 7 pounds lighter than I normally am. And that was with clothes on. So I can only imagine I was probably 8 or 9 pounds underweight. So literally everything in my body was out of me. Food, water. I was dehydrated for sure. And it just was an eye-opener. But
we were keeping the dream alive.
But I kept the dream alive. I checked my bike in on Saturday.
We kept saying, anything is possible.
Sure.
Anything is possible.
Yeah, it's Ironman. Anything is possible.
Right.
And so I checked my bags in. It was kind of surreal because I was putting my shoes in Ziploc bags. I went down there and I racked my bike and run bags. It was still in the moment, like this could still happen. And I had my pre-race dinner and got up the next day and went through the motion and got up at 3:30, had my breakfast, had my Gatorade drink, and just this is what I would do. And then 10, 15 minutes after I had that, it was not good. So that's when I knew. I crawled back into bed and I was like, I don't think this is going to happen, because I either had to get down to transition or I wasn't going to make it in time. And that's really when I made the call. And I think you asked me, like, you don't feel better? I'm like, I feel worse. And that's when I knew my body was just not going to let me do this. And I even considered maybe starting the swim or just seeing how that went. But the weight kept coming back into mind and doing damage to my body for the future.
I said to you, how would it feel to be standing shoulder to shoulder in a wetsuit for an unknown amount of time without a portage on right next to you? And you were like,
no, I don't think this is going to happen. I think that's a scary, scary thought when you're in a distressed state like this.
Yeah, it wasn't going to work. And you came back into the room that morning and you kind of fell on the bed and you were moaning. And I said, do you feel better or worse? And you said, I feel worse. And I said, well, there's the gift. Like, there's the gift. You felt worse. There was no question you were not racing. And so you made the decision.
In the moment.
And we said, let's just go back to bed. We'll miss the swim start. Let's just go back to bed.
And we tried.
And like I'm laying there looking at my eyes opening and just knowing the scene that's going on outside. And both of us were like,
we got to go down.
We got to go.
And so we rallied and got Clark ready and we headed down. And we actually saw the start from a place that we've always thought would be cool to see the swim start. And we went to the Coffee Bean down on Main Street, and it's got the beautiful view of the swim course. And yet it was foggy and we didn't see much for a little while. But the fact that we were the only two there for a while, like private front row seating to see the swim.
Yeah, and we just kind of soaked it up, and you kind of were feeling a little bit of weight, but you're going to feel that. It's not about not having a feeling of something that we would call disappointment or having a feeling of something that we would call sadness. It's what is your relationship when that feeling shows up? What are you going to do with it?
And I didn't want to go, I don't want to feed it. I didn't want to feed it.
So what do you do in those moments? What did you do in that moment? Like when a feeling like that comes up, how?
Take a breath. Slow down. Because your mind is spiraling. You're starting to go into the future. You're starting to go into maybe some past patterns, of poor me and why me. And if you just take a breath, it centers you. It brings you right back there instantly. And I start to think about being with you right there, talking to the lady who was from San Diego, looking at the view of the race course and just realizing that this thing is bigger than me. Again, when you have those thoughts, you're self-absorbed. You're starting to internalize things. So I take a breath and maybe another breath. And it just slows things down for me. And I'm able to gather myself and then refocus and come back. And I think that stems from the meditation, because in meditation, I do breathing for the first 10 minutes. It's just focus on the breath in, focus on the breath out. And that really brings me to present moment. And then I can start to dive into my thought process. What are my thoughts that are coming in and out? So I think it's really the breath.
So I think what you're saying, what you are exemplifying, and the way that you were able to function that week is because of your practice, because you have created new neural pathways in your brain, and that you believe in yourself now, and that you understand that you can make choices in a moment to go down the dark hole or to walk the warrior path.
In the warrior path, I'm starting to use that more and more, because I really truly believe
you are so understanding I know you are.
I am on this path.
I know you're really starting to feel it.
I'm on this train, and I don't want to get off, because these experiences are teaching me so much about myself and my thought process, and teaching me about others, and teaching me about what I truly love. Why am I here? That's another question I ask in meditation a lot. Like, who am I and why am I here? And Bob, our meditation teacher, has given me that. And I address it every now and then. I haven't come out, obviously, with a solution, and I don't expect to, but it gets me to think about things. And again, it brings back, what the whole Ride the High Vibe tour and everything that we're doing is to simplify. The less we have, the more we can focus on the quality of things. And I even think that was going into my prep for race day when we were putting stuff together in bags. I had nothing in special needs run or special needs bike, except for maybe like Advil or just small things. Whereas before I would have tons of things. And it was just like simplifying what is truly the things that you need. And I think even that diet I was on, I was eating bananas, applesauce, and rice. But again, it just brought me back to, here and now, breathing, focusing on my meditation practice, and believing in myself that I am this self-contained human body that I'm in, spiritual being in a human body, right? Is all I really need. This is me right here. This is me. This is what I focus on. Everything else is a nice little sensory aspect here, sensory thrill here. And I just know that all of this here, I'm completely cool with. I've worked on it. It's solid. And I'm working more and more on it. It's becoming more and more solid. And I feel like it can transcend anything. Any brick wall that appears, I'll be able to get over it, around it, or through it. And I guess that's the confidence I've been working on.
Yeah, it sounds like I've never heard you talk like this. It sounds like you're moving through it. You're in flow. And so that's what I saw you. I saw you last week in flow. And what we had started to learn, we didn't understand at the time that it was preparing us for this experience, was that we had our plan, of what we were going to do in a day or what we were going to do on the tour, but that plan has always been pretty loose because we're on the path and we understand that, but more so than ever, I saw like this lower level human plan and then the divine schedule maker, right? And that our plan didn't line up with what the divine schedule maker had on the plan. This time. But there's so many wins throughout every single day that I see now, because now that we've removed all the distraction and stuff from our life, I have so much more clarity of seeing all of the wins that happen that could be so much worse, but it's seeing the wins and it's seeing the intensity of the challenges that we get, and it's seeing those the same. And that's where the mastery comes in, and we're working on it. So can I share a little bit about my experience that week?
Please do. Yeah, of course.
For me, what I learned about detachment is that it doesn't necessarily happen as you're envisioning and setting a goal and setting the intention. When I see that I'm attached, and where I work with the detachment is in the moment of when it's all going down. So when you were, curled up in a fetal position underneath the sink, I was getting up for sunrise and it was full moon. So I meditated at night at the full moon, and then I got up for sunrise the next morning, even though I was exhausted, and I walked up to the hill beneath the Crown Plaza, which is a beautiful place to meditate, with Clark. And I just got so much clarity on what attachment looked like. And it was so simple that I understood that I was attached simply because all of this seemed like such a shock. Like, wait a minute. Whoa, what's happening? Like it was rattling me on the rails that I thought it was supposed to be another way. And that to me shows that I was attached. I didn't realize it as we were setting the attention and all the beautiful things and the support I was giving you in your training that we were envisioning, but we were also attaching. I saw it in the moment just from the simple fact that there was a part of me that believed it should have been another way, that what was happening to you was a mistake. And so that's when we see the attachment, is in those moments where we're not in flow, I guess, in a sense that we should think it's supposed to be another way. And where I practice the detachment is in those moments where there was that part of me that was just wanted to scream so loud. I mean, I could have ripped a car in two. Like that part of me was in me that I wanted so bad for you to have that run on River Road. That I wanted you to have that amazing swim that we had imagined. And I could feel that part of me, that little voice. And when I talked to Bob about it in my session recently, he said, that's the ego. It's trying to have that voice. It's always there saying, come on, buy into me, feed me. I want your energy. And it takes such strength in that moment to just, the only thing I could do was feel my breath. And so in those meditations, that voice was just there, and I would just be in my breath and recite my mantra that I use and feel a sense of gratitude for the immense amount of clarity that I was getting on this human condition that I'm experiencing as I live in this body. And so I was able to practice detachment on a higher level than I ever have. I was able to see attachment on a higher level than I ever have. And also see all of the years of my meditation and mindfulness practice to see the progress that I have made. And so that was a huge win to say, damn, this shit works and I'm living it. And I know people are seeing that. And that's one of the reasons why we have this podcast, and I just want to share so authentically. But there was so much in there that I was able to see, and I'm really, really grateful for the experience, even though it was one of the toughest weeks I've experienced in a while. Would you explain?
It was a tough week. It was tough.
The role of support within the air of suffering, which I have now had to experience, a couple times with you pretty intensely when you had your big injury. I mean, we're supporting each other all the time and supporting our athletes all the time, but the intensity of those two they have just shot me so high into a level of vibration that I know I can sustain.
Yeah, it's that confidence. You have the confidence through experience. You would not have those experiences if I didn't go through my experiences, right?
Yeah. And this is the agreement that you and I made, our souls made in a life. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that our souls have been working together for a long time. And then in the last life, we were like, all right, we're going into this one, we're going to get it done. And it took us 25 years to reconnect in this life to get whatever we needed to do done. And now we're here and we're teamed up, and it's like you're working through your stuff, and because of that, I get to work through my stuff, and then I'm working through my stuff, and because of that, you get to work through your stuff. And it's all because we are willing to sit and reflect on ourselves and how we're functioning and the way that our mind works.
Yeah, it's giving in and giving. Surrendering. And I think once you surrender and stop fighting it, I could have completely fought this whole
Oh my God, I could have fought it experience. So good.
But it was just accept it, move on. Like, what's the next step I need to do? Okay, we need to move into a hotel. What's the next thing we need to do? We need to buy white rice. What's the next thing we need to do? You need to lay down. Like, everything was like step by step. Like,
we need to go to the front desk and get more toilet paper. Right. And I kept thinking about if anyone's listening to this, we hope you are.
We hope someone out there is.
And if you haven't listened to my podcast with Philip Urso, I kept thinking about my conversation with him about the level of being in flow. Any athlete, any human needs to listen to that episode. It's really, really powerful. And he talks about, accepting kind of like how that's kind of like a lower level of flow, because you're like, I'm accepting it, but, it still should have been the other way. And I was experiencing some of that. And then there was a part of it, which I think we moved into in the end for sure, where you're welcoming it, where you welcome all things. And when you welcome all things welcome you in. And I believe that we entered a state of flow at some point with this, and we may have gone in and out of it. But to see you on race day, just being out there so beautifully supporting and selfless and not self-absorbed in your own story, that I think that was so healing for you. And so one jab that we talked about was, how boy, what an extra jab you had because you were able to come up here and really immerse yourself, into the community. There was so many community members that were texting us and emailing us like, how's BJ? I saw he didn't start. And it's like, oh man, it's like a whole new level of people now that love you. And then the second jab that we kind of felt like we got was in the days following the race, where you, like within 24 hours after the race, you really started feeling good.
Yeah, I started feeling better. Physically, with the stomach, I was able to eat and get back to the greens and the smoothies, and all of that was good. My legs were not feeling good, so I just want to clarify.
Yeah, you did nothing for 5, 6, 7 days.
Yeah, I was
like that.
Flat off my feet, and that definitely took a toll.
Yeah.
But physically, like my stomach and all of that was coming around, and it was like if the race was 1 week later, potentially I probably could have participated, and the outcome, who knows what would have happened. But everything happens for a reason. I firmly believe this now, and I've accepted it. And I'm going to learn, I've learned a lot from this experience, and I'm going to take a lot of this with me into my next race. There's a video I did too on YouTube under Yogi Triathlete that speaks to it a little bit more. I encourage you to listen to that and ask us questions if something needs clarification or you have some feedback. We'd love to hear from you, because that's just my perspective on what I learned from Detachment, and you may have something else, and I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, and I think that video, at least the experience that you had in meditation, I think that was like the first time that I witnessed you really having a download of wisdom. And that's what happens once you start getting into a regular practice, is you start to get these downloads of wisdom, which is super cool. But I just want to touch upon one more thing with detachment. These things show up in our life because we are supposed to master them. So if you can do what you've done and what I believe I've done with these kind of major intense events that we've had leading up into races, is if you can grow from them and process them and work with them on, even a notch higher every time, and this is the beauty of the mind. You take from the experience you had before and what you learned and you put it to work. Those experiences are going to start to fall away. But the more that you go down that road of self-absorption and poor me, and I'm never going to be fit again, and I'm never going to race again, all you do is say to the universe, okay, give me more of this because I'm not learning. So to think of this world as anything besides a school is, I don't want to say it's an immature way to look at the world. It really is. And I don't mean that in any kind of insulting way whatsoever, because I certainly lived most of my life looking at the world in a very different way than I look at it now. We are here to learn things, and these things don't happen to you because you have bad luck or anything like that. It's the same thing about your gifts, your beautiful talents, and your skills, and the things that you love. You're here to share those. And the challenges that you have in your life, you're here to overcome those, and you're here to learn from them so that you can teach others, right? So that you can become the teacher. I guess what I'm saying is, like, nip it in the bud, man. Like, just get it done in the moment. Do the best you can in that moment, and you will start to supersede what you're here to master, because you will become the master of yourself.
I love how you put that, because I feel like I am on that path of self-mastery.
Yeah.
It's constant work in progress.
And doesn't every athlete want to be a master? Like this
yeah, I know I do.
This is Yogi Triathlete, you guys. Like, you're not athletes because you're lazy. Like, you guys have will and discipline. You got everything you do to be a master. Let's do it. Like, get on board, man. We got room on the bus, right? Let's do it. So, what's next? Tell us what's next. How did you come to this decision of what you're doing? So
we tossed around a lot of ideas. I do want to race. I feel like I'm ready to race after a few weeks of getting back into training. And we've thrown a few things around. Coeur d'Alene. And I definitely want to do Ironman. So Coeur d'Alene is an option, which would be funny because that was the race we did when we lived in Boulder. We did it a few times. It's pretty close, so I don't know if that's an option. And then we thought about Cozumel because we had done that last year, and it would give me enough time, plenty of time to get back into shape. And it's a known course, and we're going to be in Arizona. So at that point, and we could leave Clark and
yeah, we could do it. And the Iron Cowboy, James Lawrence was calling you out.
Yeah, he's getting me fired up.
He still wants you to go down there.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he loves that race, and we chatted about it a lot when he came to Rhode Island for his 50-50-50 campaign last year. We had plenty of time to talk together, talk about stuff, but I think what's going to happen is we are changing our plans a little bit, and we're going to reroute. And we're going to head to Ironman Louisville, October 9th.
Heck yeah.
So that's 10 weeks away from now. And we're going to make our way there, and that could change too, who knows, but that's the next stop. So Ironman Louisville, here we come.
Yep. The intention is set and the vision is going, and, we're going to keep the dream alive and understand that there is that divine schedule maker that we have run into face to face. And we're just going to see. We're going to reroute. So we're not going to go as south as we thought we were going to go. We're going to be going through West Virginia. We'll be making our way down like Philly, DC, West Virginia, Louisville. Then we're going to go Nashville, Oklahoma. We are going to Colorado, Boulder friends. We're going to Colorado. We're going to Park City. We're going to go down and see the Iron Cowboy. And then we're going to head into Arizona. That is our plan. And we hope that also aligns with the divine plan that we know is already set. So any final words, Beej, on this? Because it's such a big topic, and I think it's one that a lot of people are ready to listen to. We've been getting a lot of requests to go in deeper with it. So any final words on this?
Absolutely. If you sit with yourself quietly each day, make a commitment, start with 1 minute, sit quietly, breathe, and continue to progress each day. Maybe you do 2 minutes, maybe you do up to 5 minutes, maybe on the weekend you mimic your long workout with a long reflection of 10 or 15 minutes. Whatever the time is, if you can just carve out just a little bit every day and sit with yourself and watch the thoughts come in and out. Don't block them. Watch the thoughts come in and out. You're going to have questions. You're going to go into inquiry about yourself. You're going to naturally figure out, as an athlete's mind is, like, how did I get here? How can I work with this? What does this all mean? And don't put any hard pressure on yourself. If you can just sit quietly and just see where things end up. That's exactly what I did. And I'm up to, I think 30 minutes daily now. But I always enjoy getting into that meat of the meditation where I'm inquiring about the thoughts that are coming through my mind and what do they mean? What can I pull from it? What should I dive into deeper? What do I need to work on? And just see it. Because when you see yourself from that perspective, you start to realize some of the thoughts you have are so crazy that the only person that worries about it is you. Nobody else cares. A lot of the thoughts you have are just self-inflicted, I guess you could say. And so I've started to think about this more and trying to put it into words. So I think the easiest thing to do is to just sit there quietly, and it doesn't have to be for a long time. It doesn't have to be a special space. Just sit there and take a few breaths, and you'll see these thoughts come through. And eventually, the longer and the more you do it, the more you'll build confidence in the fact that you have control over your actions and your thoughts. I hope that helps some people.
Yeah, and I just want to close with something that the day after the race, I shared this with you. I had picked up Autobiography of a Yogi, which is one of my favorite books. I've read it probably 5 times at this point, and I highly recommend it for anyone. It's especially if it's something that's come into your awareness before. then it's definitely something you need to read. And there's this part where Yogananda is with his teacher, Sri Yukteswar, and he just is soaking up all of his wisdom. He asks him to tell him stories about his childhood. So Yukteswar tells him 3 different stories, and each of them has a moral. And the second story that he tells him is about how when he was younger, he wanted his neighbor's dog, who was so ugly. And he was in turmoil for weeks because he was trying to figure out how to get this dog. And there was other people who were offering pets that were more attractive and were available. But he was so dead set on getting his neighbor's dog, which was never meant to be his. And the moral of the story, he says, is, and this is a quote from the book, "Attachment is blinding. It lends an imaginary halo of attractiveness to the object of desire." So we're just going to leave that with you to marinate and catch you on the next show. Was that helpful or what? I'm telling you, I was blown away at the wisdom that was flowing through that human we call BJ. I've been with this man since the beginning of his triathlon career and meditation practice, and I can say without hesitation that this guy is advancing at a very rapid rate, and so can you. Like BJ said, start with 1 minute a day. Consistency is everything in life. And as far as change is concerned, that is only available in the present moment, no other place. It's the choices we make every moment that craft our future. And our future is not months or years down the line. It's the next moment we're about to experience. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much for all your support. You guys, you have no idea how you are helping us grow and spread the message. So please keep sharing the high vibe with everyone you meet. This is how we change the world, one person at a time. Everything you do counts. And share that high vibe with yourself because it all starts there. And don't forget to get to iTunes, leave the review, and get yourself entered to win the ultimate in footwear recovery. We've been feeling the ooh for months now, and I have to say, I'm never going back. Okay, that's it for this episode. Ride the high vibe, you guys, no matter what, and especially when you don't want to.